Feed the world. Let them know it's Jack and Joe show time. We apologise for, last week we weren't here. I was in Edinburgh. You were in Nottingham. And as you can tell, we're a little bit zoomed out today. That's because Fulhamish merch is being worn and we want everyone to see it. Go grab yourself a wonderful t-shirt from the wonderful, I'm saying wonderful twice now, website, fulhamish.co.uk/merchandise or Fulhamish merch. Joe Sansom, how are you today?
I am very good. It has been a long time since we've spoken. There's been a lot of water under the bridge. There's been the Bournemouth game. There's been the Luton game. I think today we're going to talk about Fulham, where we're at the moment in terms of the league, in terms of the club, just in a more general sense, rather than looking in detail at the Luton game or the Bournemouth game, which we never spoke about on here. Purely because it's been a really weird run of games, and now we're going into the most wonderful time of the year. Nearly deadline season is looming. But first, we've got the crazy Christmas period, which, unless COVID gets involved, as it has a bit with the Premier League, we've got 3 games in just over a week, 4 games in a week and a half. So it's going to be a bit crazy, and I can't wait to talk about it.
It's been a weird period for Fulham because my overwhelming emotion towards the last few games has been frustration. But we're top of the league by 2 points. We're 11 unbeaten, as it says at the bottom here. We are almost, I suppose we're part of the way through Slavisa's 23 unbeaten record. I don't know whether we're going to surpass that, catch it up. Not sure. We've got a big game against Sheffield United. So let me get your thoughts on just an oversight of the last 2 games, not delving into the details. The Bournemouth game's been covered enough. It was a wonderful game of football. Bizarre goal we conceded. And then the Luton game on Saturday, which was pretty much more Bristol City away 2.0, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. If I had to sum up the last 2 games in terms of the performance, forget about the results, because obviously it was the same. Bournemouth, great. Luton, crap, to be honest.
Okay.
Bournemouth, I thought we were brilliant. I thought it was one of our best performances of the season, other than that 5-second period at the start of the second half, 9 seconds. Could have scored more, should have scored more. Proved, in my opinion, that we are the best team in the league. However, the Luton game was a lot tougher. It was just one of those days, I think nothing seemed to click. Clearly missing Reed in midfield. Felt their goal was inevitable. And 1-1 was probably a fair result, in my opinion. We didn't create enough. So on an off day, if you don't lose, I think that's positive. I feel that champions often find a way to win, like we did at Peterborough when we aren't at our best. So that's something to work on. But I'm not too concerned. I'll be concerned if we follow that up with a similar performance against Sheffield United. If you remember the difference between the Preston game, I know that the squad was still quite ill, but it was very poor performance. And compare that to the Bournemouth game, same result again, 3 1-1s in a row. But the performance was night and day. Against Bournemouth, we were so good going forward. And I don't know how we didn't score more. We let ourselves down with the finishing a bit on the day. If we play like that against Sheffield United, then I fancy us to win the game. And we really do need to get back to winning ways because, as we'll come on to, the gap has closed, not from Bournemouth, but from the chasing pack slightly. They're now 5 points behind West Brom. So yeah, it's been a weird run of games. I'm not nervous yet, but I would like it to be more comfortable than it is. And I think what worried me about the Luton game, the only thing that worried me was the lack of chance creation, which is very similar to that Preston game. And the Preston game, we had an excuse. The team was basically ill. Luton, we didn't have that excuse. So I would hope that they'll look at that. We've got a bit of a big gap now. At the time of recording, it's just under a week away. The Sheffield United game, we've got a long way to go until then. Hopefully get Reed back fit and hopefully be firing and take on Paul Heckingbottom's Blades.
And Sheffield United were meant to play last night at home to Queen's Park Rangers, but it was postponed due to COVID-19, given now they've got more preparation time. I don't know whether that plays into it too much. But there are a couple of players I want to flag up for Sheffield United. Morgan Gibbs-White, who I've been banging the drum for quite a few years, saying he's a good player. And he's doing really well at Sheffield United. And I was listening to NCT20 the other day. I think it was about a week ago, actually, after Sheffield United's last game when they beat Cardiff. And they were saying how Wolverhampton Wanderers might recall him, which would be a huge boost for the, well, I suppose the opposition of the Championship of Sheffield United. But he will be definitely involved in this game, definitely, unless he's injured or anything. He's a great player. They've got Billy Sharp. They've still got Ryan Brewster. I mean, this is a team we only beat narrowly 1-0 last season. And their team hasn't massively changed since that horrendous Premier League campaign they had last season, Joe.
No, it hasn't. And you think back to the start of the season, we were all thinking it's us, West Brom, Sheffield United, and then Bournemouth. They were almost like the wild card. They were the one that people were thinking, yeah, they'll do well. They did well last year, got into the playoffs, but probably not top two material compared to ourselves and the other two relegated sides. So they're definitely not to be underestimated. They've won 3 in a row, playing some quite poor teams in that run. I think it was Reading, Cardiff, and Bristol City. Not in that order, but those were the 3 teams. So, I don't think it's anything to write home about, but they still had to win them. They have. And they seem to be doing better under Paul Heckingbottom, for all we've said about Slavisa and saying that they were wrong to sack him so early. At this moment in time, right now, the change has worked. They've been given a bit of a boost and it's working. So I'm a bit nervous about the game because I feel like we're playing a rejuvenated side. And as you said, Gibbs-White is playing very well. Truth be told, Jack, I know you've always rated him very highly. I definitely didn't used to. I thought he was quite bang average when I saw him out. I think it was Swansea.
Yeah, it was Swansea last season.
Went back to Wolves and actually scored a great goal against Brighton, I remember seeing and thinking, oh, okay. When Sheffield United signed him, I was thinking, fine, I think he's a Championship player, but he's looked a bit of a cut above recently. There was one move against Cardiff in the game they won 3-2 when he was instrumental.
And he scored a great goal against Cardiff as well.
Yeah. He seems to be instrumental in every attack. So if you can keep him quiet, I don't know how I'd compare it. I'd maybe compare it to John Swift at Reading, where sort of attacking midfielder, everything seems to come through them. So if we can keep him quiet, I would fancy us to keep Sheffield United quiet.
It's a tough game, and it's because obviously we haven't seen Sheffield United play in quite a while since that Cardiff game. It's very hard to make a judgment on form. I suppose 3 in a row is good, but when you have that long of a break, will it be a hindrance to them or will it be a huge benefit to them? We'll wait and see on Monday night, live on Sky yet again. Okay, let's look forward then a little bit over this Christmas period. We've got Sheffield United, we've got Birmingham, we've got Reading away, and then we've got Swansea away. And then, of course, we drew in the FA Cup draw. We were very excited for it. I was up in Edinburgh watching it on my phone in the Christmas market. And who do we get? Bristol City away. And I genuinely think that's probably the worst, in the top 5 worst aways you could possibly get. Someone we've already played this season away from home. And it's not far, but it's not very convenient. And Joe Sansom is at 12:30, and what is going on there? Why have they done that?
Oh, God knows. It's so boring, like unbelievably paint dry boring. I mean, I'm sure Bristol City are saying exactly the same. It's no disrespect to them. It just is boring. Playing any side that's in your division is rubbish in a cup, let alone one you've already played at that stadium a week before you play them again. So, oh my God, imagine if we draw and then we have to play them 3 times.
And then we're playing them the week after in the league.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Ridiculous.
And we never do particularly well against them either.
No.
Weird one. I mean, I've got to say, I'm not fussed about the cup this year. I mean, saying that if we get far, of course I will be, but I'd rather prioritise the league. I think we've got a strong enough squad to still field a very strong side in that game. But before that, as you were saying about the Christmas period, those 4 games, Sheffield United, Birmingham, Reading and Swansea, I mean, I think it's a nice set of fixtures. I think it's winnable games. And that's no disrespect to any of those teams, but I think it's games that we should be turning this run around against. I think Luton away is a harder game than any of those, to put it into perspective, in my opinion. I think Luton are quite a decent side, especially at home. Birmingham beating them 5-0 aside. So
that was bizarre, actually. Yeah.
that was so weird. Tahith Chong just went mental in that game.
I think Tahith Chong has been injured the last few games, but at the beginning of the season, he had unbelievable form.
Yeah, so I hope he's still out. I mean, I hope he gets better, but I hope he's still out for when we play Birmingham, because he was a great player. It is games where I feel like we need to be winning at least 3 of these 4, going for all 4, obviously, but I think it's the time where we need to try and get ourselves away. Forget about West Brom for a second. Bournemouth's next 2 games: Middlesbrough away,
huge,
QPR away.
Massive.
I mean, those are 2 extremely difficult games. So if we could get a bit of daylight between us and them, even better. It's 2 points now. You know, if they gain 2 points on us, they still wouldn't be above us because of our goal difference. So it's a really good time to try and create a bit of a gap. But most important thing, get back to winning ways Monday as early as we can, because we don't want this unbeaten run to become a winless run, which it already has, but almost like because we won 7 in a row, give us the benefit of the doubt to turn it around.
Yeah, a couple of things to flag up about the teams around us. I was having a nice little chat with Gab Sutton and a Bournemouth fan and a West Brom fan on Friday night, and I did say to them that I think all our games on Saturday, we having Luton, they having Bournemouth playing Blackburn and West Brom playing Reading, they are all banana skins, and I would be surprised if 2 of us drop points. And it just happened it was Fulham and it was Bournemouth who lost again. Am I right in saying that's their 3rd defeat of the season?
Yeah.
So they've lost the same amount of games as we have.
Yep.
Interesting. I think Blackburn are really good value at the moment. It's an unbelievable turnaround from their 7-0 defeat to ourselves. And Swansea fans sometimes think that, do think they're the best team in the league because they hold the ball. You can have all the possession you like, but it's what you do with the ball that's most important.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd say on that is I think there's a reason that they have a lot of the ball is that teams let them, because they do absolutely nothing with it. And this may age terribly by the time we play them, but when we play them at Craven Cottage and we beat them 3-1, and what was a great goal from them, by the way, that entire second half they had the ball and there wasn't one clear-cut chance.
Yeah. Joe Pirro is the man they just rely on just to ping shots from 25 yards and hope it goes in, albeit off a deflection as well. So interesting championship season. Interesting how things are coming to the ball at the moment. And Bournemouth lose again. I mean, this is a wobble. You know, the Coventry game, the Derby game, Fulham, where arguably the game tactics, we can talk about it because we haven't covered it on this show, Parker's tactics were wrong. Fair enough, they scored a good goal, and it's ironic it came a goal of that sort of technique and precision came against us as an opponent, a team which also did that in a very crucial game against Brentford in the playoff final. Interesting, Parker just sits everyone and in the box, and it was only a matter of time before we got the goal, Joe. Anything else to add before we come on to some news? It's just breaking from Fulham, just regarding COVID-19 passports and stuff. Your thoughts on that?
In terms of Bournemouth, I mean, I think to touch on that game very briefly, as you said, we saw the good and the bad from Parker. We saw the good parts. And a lot of people pointing this out on Twitter, so I am repeating what others have said, but the great almost set piece move, well worked. First half pressed us really well. Then the substitution around 55 minutes, Marcondes, who was terrible, don't get me wrong, absolutely awful performance from him. So I hope he enjoyed his trip back to Craven Cottage, and I'm sure that all the Fulham players were very, very scared of him again. Bringing him off for Ben Pearson, and it was just the wrong substitution at that time. I'm not saying that when you're 1-0 up, you can't bring on defensive players, but there was a 10-minute spell after the goal where I thought we were really shell-shocked. I don't think we were poor, but we weren't creating anything. It was almost, okay, let's get our foot on the ball. Let's try and reassert our dominance. And Bournemouth had a couple of half chances. And I really think that if Bournemouth went for it at that point, they could have actually got 3 points out of the game. I reckon they could have possibly got a second goal, or at least just pushed us back into our own half long enough to settle down a bit, then bring on the defensive subs. Because the way they did it, they had then 35 minutes. That's not even counting injury time, which there was, I think, another 5 minutes of. So 40 minutes, backs against the wall, 0 attacks, hoofing it to no one because Solanke was so deep. And that lost them the game. We completely deserved to win the match. A lot of Bournemouth fans complaining about how we couldn't beat their reserves. Didn't realise that their reserves meant they were missing about 2 players who are both crap. I'm really not having it at all. We deserve to win that game. We should have won that game. On another day, we win it convincingly. Hope it happens in April, because it really wound me up. It was 2 weeks ago and I'm still annoyed about it. But we saw the good and the bad from Parker. And then it seemed like Blackburn almost did the same job on them on Saturday. And it was one of those where once Bournemouth go behind, which they haven't done much this season to their credit, they've been very good at not going behind. I think it was the first time they've been losing at half time this season was to
since
Blackburn.
the opening day, I think.
Yeah. And they didn't know what to do because Blackburn sat so deep. There wasn't a way to cut through them. And it really was similar to Fulham in 1920, or parts of last season, where individual brilliance had to get through, and they didn't have it on the day. Don't get me wrong, I think Bournemouth are a good team, but this is a wobble and a half, and these 2 tough games will show what they're made of. It wouldn't surprise me if they went up to Middlesbrough and they put out a statement win. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But it wouldn't surprise me if the wobble continued and they win neither of their next 2 games. So we have to hope that from a Fulham perspective, this is more than a wobble, and this is them regressing to their performances this season, which I don't think have been as good as league-topping form that they had earlier this season. So fingers crossed. Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there, but those are my thoughts on Bournemouth.
I think Bournemouth are worth talking about because they're our closest rivals at the moment at the top of the table. And I'd be interested to see what sort of approach Parker makes if they were to take the lead against Middlesbrough and QPR. It'd be very interesting to watch that one. Fulham FC have just put out a statement following the introduction of new government requirements. The club can confirm that all supporters aged over 18 or 18 or over will be required to display their NHS COVID vaccine passport certification or present proof of a negative lateral flow test when attending matches at Craven Cottage. So yeah, that's from Monday. Monday against Sheffield United. Fine, I think that's fine. I think just do it. That's fine. But it will cause some cues at the start of the game, which will be very frustrating. So might have to be golden line at 3 as opposed to 4, and ground for 7 as opposed to 7:30 or 6:45. I suppose kickoff's at 8, isn't it? So, Joe, you put a very interesting thing to me a couple of days ago about Patrick Vieira's Crystal Palace and comparing them to last season's Fulham. Now, there's not much to talk about in terms of Fulham right now. We've had 4 draws in a row, and we've already covered what's coming over the Christmas period. So let's delve into this. What did you put to me so that you can reiterate it to people watching? And what was the point you were trying to make?
So you were at the game, and I was watching it at home on TV, and it just got me thinking because I made now the rather silly prediction of thinking that Vieira would not do very well at Crystal Palace.
Okay.
I thought that the change from Roy Hodgson's very defensive, solid, quite boring to watch, but very effective football, and suddenly changing that completely and going free-flowing, attacking football, I didn't think it would work. And he's proved me completely wrong. He's doing a great job. Even the games they've lost, I think they've looked pretty impressive. And you were there firsthand to see it, and they looked great. I know it was against quite a poor Everton team, but it got me thinking, and the comparison between Hodgson and Vieira, it made me think of a comparison between Parker and Marco Silva, where one is more control the game, try and be more solid, and the other is very much attack, and once you score again. And it made me think, I wonder how Marco Silva's Fulham would fare in the Premier League. I wonder how Marco Silva would have done with last season's Fulham team if he'd had them scoring more goals. And yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion point because, the aim is promotion, but what happens then? We need to be able to stay there. I don't think we can suddenly change the system to ultra defensive football. Obviously, we've got to be slightly more reserved. But yeah, what do you think, Jack? Do you think we can go up, and do you think we can keep playing a similar brand of football where we go for teams and we try to score goals rather than sit back until about 60 odd minutes and try and nick one at the end?
It's tough, isn't it? It's all about game management, and with the Premier League, it's very every opposition has nuances that you have to sort of combat and try and play against. It's interesting you say Crystal Palace because I can see signs within that, and obviously Conor Gallagher as a player is unbelievable in the midfield and has that element of control and scores goals and assists. But I would like to try and compare it to this season's Watford team, who
Okay.
are very good going forward and score quite a few goals,
Yeah.
but terrible at the back. And that's nothing to do with like Ranieri. This is not my Ranieri agenda coming out here. It's genuinely how they set up as a team. Unless Marek Rodak wants to start his new cycling or whatever he wants to do YouTube channel, we're not on the same level as Watford right now. I mean, I think Watford. I think Fulham, if we go up this season, I think we'll score a hell of a lot of goals, more than we obviously got last season. But I think we'll score a good amount of goals. It's just the defensive side for me is what's going to concern me. I think you've got someone in Tosin Adarabioyo who can step up. And I think we'll probably need, unless Terence Gongolo has some sort of miraculous turn of form when he eventually does come back, I think we'll need one or two more centre-backs in. So that Watford team, I mean, even on Friday night, they had basically the 1-0 lead. They were trying to sit back, and Brentford weren't really that good. And then they suddenly just managed to get a goal that was marginally onside and then get a penalty after the stupid tackle. But Watford have actually done really well. They've gone to the likes of Everton and scored 5. I thought when I watched them against Arsenal, they were really decent. And actually, I think they only lost 1-0. They saved the penalty. Can we hold our own in the Premier League with the current squad we've got with a few additions? Absolutely. And I think under Marco Silva, we're going to have more impetus on the ball, especially in the forward areas, to create more and score more. And I think it will be a case of if we score one, we'll try and get another, probably against the teams at the bottom half of the table as opposed to the top, understandably. My worry is the defence, but I mean, we're getting well ahead of ourselves. It's just good to make those sort of comparisons because I'm seeing this Premier League season here, and if our team from last season, or maybe a mix and match of this season / last season under Marco Silva, I think we'd be okay. I know it's hard to say, but I think we'd probably be down there, but I don't think we'd be disgracing ourselves. And I'm not sure, like, whether people will be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, Marco Silva's been out of the Premier League for a while. You've got to build it up. You've got to build up his sort of reputation again. But I don't know. I do have a lot of confidence, and especially Neeskens Cabano. I genuinely think Neeskens Cabano could make the step up next season and play a few games. Maybe we need another left-sided midfielder or winger. But yeah, that was my thoughts. But it's interesting how we compared it to two different teams in this Premier League. But yeah, I think Palace are a really good example of how you can actually transition from one style of play to another without actually disrupting the team too much. Only a few additions, including Joachim Andersen. And yeah, interesting discussion that. Any more thoughts?
No, I think what makes it more interesting is the in terms of Crystal Palace specifically, Anderson brought in. Obviously, we know him from last season, ball playing centre back, and it's very hard to change the spine of a team that is the core of the team. And for Palace, it had been the core of the team for several years. Scott Dan, Cahill, etc. Scrap that. They brought in 2 new centre backs, Anderson and Guehi, who hadn't even played in the Premier League before.
Exactly.
Ball playing centre halves, and they've changed it that way. And it's interesting. And if they can do that, then we can do it from Championship to Premier League. But we need quality additions to do it. We can't do it with this current team. And Watford defensively struggling. They're the best defence in the Championship last year. It was unbelievably rock solid, and it just shows the gap. So it just made me think, and I do think you're right that we could make it work with this style of play against the lower teams, where last season we drew 0-0. Maybe now we could take them to the sword and actually score a few goals. I do think that is possible. because the quality at the lower end of the Premier League is not that much higher than the top end of the Championship, in my opinion. There is a gap. There is a quality gap. Of course there is, because the quality of players is far better. But I do think that we could bridge it with a few additions. But it is interesting. It does make me excited. I would like to think that if Marco Silva was in charge last season, we'd have scored more goals. For one, he'd have probably played to Mitrovic's strengths. Maybe involved Cabano a bit more as well. But interesting. And I know we are getting ahead of ourselves. This is not us saying we think we'll be promoted, but obviously we hope to be. And if we are, we need to have a plan that actually works.
Talking of getting ahead of ourselves, let's look back 10 years ago to the day. Sammy James put in the group chat when we drew that horrendous game against Odense in the Europa League. And he put a clip, I think, on Twitter and also in the chat about the 5-minute added time clip, or whatever, 3 minutes it was of added time. That has got to be one of the worst game management stoppage time sequences of play I've seen since probably Brentford at home when we drew 1-1 and Mopo scored. I mean, what are we doing? First of all, we get a free kick and we just lump it long up to, I think it was Orlando Sarr.
Yeah,
took it down, lost the ball. We sat back. Senderos then was pulled out of position for no reason. He then has to get back. He's not in the right position when the cross comes in, and then whatever guy puts it in the back of the net. A lot of people saying, this will be our last point before we finish. A lot of people was saying that was the turning point for the club as the start of the decline, which was probably true. But then also you make the point of when we beat Swansea on that last day of the season, that was also the worst thing to happen because it meant Martin Yeo actually stayed on 13-14. But give me your thoughts on where you were when Odense BK came and snatched a draw to send us out the Europa League.
So I remember for that Europa League run, I'd been to all the qualifiers at home, and then I'd been to the FC Twente and Wisla Krakow games at home, but I couldn't make the Odense one for whatever reason. So I was just watching it from my living room. My blood boils at the thought of that game. Like just absolutely boils. I remember I'm not afraid to say that I was crying when we got knocked out. I was distraught. I was too young for the first Europa League run to go to many games, any away games at all. And I was thinking this could be my chance. And then it was taken away from me. I didn't think it would be the end forever. I don't think it will be, but it has been since. I can't believe that was 10 years ago. But yeah, Orlando Sarr, for a start, mate, just take it to the corner. For the love of God, if I could go back in time and tell him that, I would. But yeah, I do think that was a sliding doors moment for the club. But the bigger one, as you've said there, was, I think, the Swansea game, because at the end of that season, all wasn't lost. We had a good team. But the end of that 12-13 season, I mean, we were doing so badly until that Swansea game. And even that game, we got absolutely battered. I don't know how we won 3-0. And it made you all stay. We jumped up a few places. It all looked a bit rosier. But the problems were there to see. And I think that as well. Yeah, such an aging squad. Little investment as well, we've got to say, from Al Fayed. I think he obviously knew he was going to sell up. And then he didn't get rid of Yol. Sort of thought, why change something that wasn't broken? But looking beyond the actual number of where we finished in the league table, it was broken and it was only going to get worse. So, yeah, I mean, not the nicest period of Fulham to think about, but I mean, strange couple of years where we could have gone on to the knockout stage of the Europa League with a favourable run again. And we ended up getting relegated a couple of seasons after. So really strange. Certainly not been a dull 10 years since that game, though.
No, I think I've said it before, actually. 13-14, fighting relegation. 14-15, fighting relegation. 15-16, fighting relegation. 16-17, looking for promotion. 17-18, looking for promotion. 18-19, fighting relegation. 19-20, fighting for promotion. 20-21, fighting for relegation. No, not fighting for, fighting against relegation. And here we are. Yeah. So, I mean, it's never dull. I think I might have missed out a season there, actually, but it's basically been...
Yeah. It's been chaos. Went down. For 10 years, it's been absolute chaos.
And this is why I mean, we put emphasis on it last season. We were like, oh, I want to stay up. I want to like stay up quite comfortably and we can just push on from here. But actually now, get rid of Parker. Parker's gone. Under Marco Silva, if we go up and stay up, it could be roses and daisies and whatever kind of flowers you want. Like, just it could be very nice.
Yeah.
Very rosy.
Yeah.
That's the name of it. Very rosy. But you never know. I think, the Premier League gets harder and harder every year. The competitive nature of it is unbelievable. A lot of Luton fans jabbing at us saying, we'll see you in 2 seasons' time. Look, if you want to start scrapping Fulham fans after a 1-1 draw outside Kenilworth Road, well, interesting indeed. Joe Sansom, it's been a really interesting video because there's not been much to delve into in terms of current Fulham. I've really enjoyed the trip down memory lane and also comparisons to a couple of Premier League teams.
Yeah, me too. And excited to go and watch some Barclays football downstairs. And then we obviously have Monday to look forward to. So we can watch all the games over the weekend, see what our rivals are up to, and hopefully extend that gap a bit on Monday. And then we've got the festive period, which football-wise is the best time of year. So many games every day, even if it's not Fulham. Really excited for it. And talking about that with you, going down memory lane and Europa League and stuff like that, does make me remember why I love being in the Premier League. Because when it's good, it is good. And you're against the best, you can get into Europe. I mean, obviously, it's so much harder now. The gap's huge, but dare to dream, and fingers crossed we can get back there.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it's a good point because I've been lucky enough to go to a few Premier League games this season. And it, look at Palace. I was like, oh, that's so good because they went up and they didn't really have any problems in staying up, and they're still here. And they've got this wonderful new fan zone thing they've got in the stadium. Sellers Park really is a good place to go and watch football. I'm lucky to get enough to go there tomorrow night as well to watch the Saints. You also forgot, which is quite alarming, one most important thing about the festive period, and it starts tomorrow. It's the World's Darts Championships. One of my favourite times of the year, of course, for that reason. But Joe, we've been rambling on as we always do for quite a while. So yeah, I'm lucky enough to go to a game tomorrow night, maybe one on Saturday as well, and then we got Fulham on Monday. So, score prediction.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that actually. Yeah, we probably should do that. I've got a score in my head for this one that's quite strong, and I never normally have this, but I think we're going to win this 2-1. And I can see it in my brain that we take the lead just before half time. We think everything's rosy. We come back out and Morgan Gibbs-White scores. And we all think, oh my goodness, we're going to draw 1-1 again. And then Cabano scores. 70-ish, 80-ish minutes, 2-1 Fulham. That's my prediction.
I will look forward to listening to you on the podcast, delving deep into that 2-1 win.
Yeah, well, I hope that does happen, or that is so tables if that does not happen now.
Unfortunately, I'm going to go for another 1-1 draw just because it's going to happen, isn't it? But yeah, look, the absence of Jack and Joe show last week, we went a little bit longer this week. But we will be back, perhaps. I'm not going to start making any promises or anything, but let's just say
Christmas period's tough, but hopefully back before Birmingham at some point.
I remember we made a video on Christmas Eve, 23rd, after the Newcastle game last year. So I'm sure you'll see us before Christmas. Whether it's live or not, we don't know. Let's just let's just put that one out to tease the viewers. Thanks very much for watching. Well, Joe Sansom, thanks very much for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jack. Thanks everyone for watching.
This has got to be one of my favourite ones we've done so far this season, despite the fact that it's eat, sleep, 1-1 draws, and repeat. Thanks very much for watching. We will see you next time. And where are we? Here we go. It's been a long time. See you later.